Hello, everybody. Let me see if
Hi.
Got a microphone. There you go.
Morning, everyone.
Hello.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hello, what's up?
Nothing much.
Hi. Well, everybody's connecting. Just let's wait a couple of more minutes. Hello, Tristan. Hello, Puya. 6. Hello, Anna. Hello, Lee. Let me see. Yeah, we're almost. Hi.
Lucas, do you have an interview today?
Sorry.
I have an interview today.
Interview.
I just see you're wearing a colored shirt, so I assume that there must be.
Yeah, I thought so too. Seeing the shirt.
Just a random shirt, man.
Just
The first thing I pop off from my closet. Do you know what I mean? Don't read much into that. No. Definitely not. God no. I promise. Like tomorrow, I'll be wearing a regular black t-shirt. You know, not to confuse anybody. So yeah, sorry about that.
Did I do a question?
Yeah.
Sorry, good morning first. Are we going to have the same group this week? Because I did not see any groups.
Yeah. We're gonna keep the groups because this is very important. During this week, we're gonna focus only on React. We're not gonna touch CSS. Of course, I need to teach you how to use classes in React. That it's quite easy, but it's not the same name, and I will explain why not. Because you know already the groups, if you have problems completing the part of the design of the project that is part of the evaluation anyways, I believe that the chemistry that you have last week will help you debug faster during this project. In that case, I know that each professor has their methodology of changing groups each week, but in this particular thing, I actually agree with Dina, where I do prefer to have a single group per module than per week. But starting next week, remember, Ehan will take charge and will teach backend technologies. And it will be up to him to decide if he changes the groups per week, or he keeps one group for the 2 weeks. Or even if he chooses, he can choose the option to keep the groups that I just assembled and go along with that for the entire web development module. But again, it's by professor. So,
Yeah.
but thank you for asking that. Don't worry.
Now we know. Thank you.
Perfect. We actually reached 35 quite fast, so we can start right now. Okay. Yes. Last week we didn't finish the part of the JavaScript, the Fetch API. So we're gonna do a quick example before moving to React. Full disclaimer: we're only gonna do the basic get method. For the post and the delete, Ehan will take charge of that one and starting next week when he first teach you how to make a backend. And once you actually build the backend using Spring, you will be able to carry or ping that particular server and use all the RESTful API calls to make all kind of carries to the system. So we're gonna do the basic get one. Can you hear me back?
Yeah.
Perfect. So as I was mentioning before, we're gonna focus only on the get one because based on the experience that I have in the coding interviews here in Stockholm, all the tests that you are gonna do are based only on a simple get. They care more about how well you write your React components, how well do you organize your components. So yeah, that's exactly how we are gonna focus today. So well, let's not waste more time and start with Visual Studio Code. I share my desktop. I will create a new Visual Studio project. Give me 1 second. Let me close this one. Let me open the project snippets so you can, as soon as I push the changes, you can see the changes in the repository. So give me 1 second. I will open that. Module. Yes, snippets. So I will close this. And we're gonna create a new 5 fetch. And I will call it live.html. Perfect. I will create a basic web page, HTML5. We'll call it fetch. Get fetch one. Fetch. Get and a quick description. Call an API endpoint using promises to avoid the classical, the old callback hell. So we're gonna use a more clean method. There is one even more cleaner called async await. That's a little bit more complicated. So for me, the one of using promises achieve a nice balance between easy to teach and easy to use. Async await, to be honest, is even easier to code, but it's more complex to teach. So for me, that's the reason that I will go with the promises, but I will add resources for the async await if you actually want to go one step further. And if you are obsessed with clean code, yeah, I will totally recommend to invest time in going to async await. It will make your code maybe 10% cleaner, but maybe for some of you, 10% is a huge difference. Maybe for some of you, it will be not. But something I can tell you is that teaching async await is 50% more hard. So that's the reason I choose promises. It's a nice balance between how good is the code and how it's easy to teach. So async await for me is a better approach. I use it personally, but it's harder to teach. So I will go with promises that are more than good enough. So well, let's do something quick. This is gonna be the very last time that we're gonna use the live reload plugin. If you don't have it installed in your computer, starting today in React, you will not need to worry about this particular plugin called Live Server. because the method that we're going to use to create React applications comes with its own built-in functionality to replicate the live server. You will see that in a couple of minutes when we start React. So that's a quick disclaimer. And now let's create a classic script. I will create a constant to hold my information of the endpoint. I actually have it stored here in my sticky notes. So for example, this is the very endpoint that we're gonna use in the React project that we're gonna, well, you actually wanna build this week. Let me do a quick showcase of what is this endpoint. Right now you see a wall of just random text, but if I actually copy this text and put it in a JSON formatter, JSON link. Give me 1 second. If I paste this random piece of text, I press validate, you can actually see that, oh, okay, we have an ID, we have a status, we have an estimated arrival time, we have an ID for the package, we have the store that sends blah, 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 location, and a couple of more information that we're gonna see. Well, to be honest, this is something that you will need to analyze on your own as part of the requirement of the real case study. We're gonna explain the real case study in detail as soon as I release it tomorrow. But for now, we only need to know that this link, as soon as you open this link, the link that was here, sorry. As soon as you open this link, you will see a JSON file. So let's do a quick console log. So for example, if I do console.log endpoint, and we open the console, we only see the link. What we want to see is the JSON thingy. So to do that, we actually need to do a fetch, a method called fetch. I know that some people use a library called Axios to handle endpoint calls in JavaScript, but you don't need to do that anymore. Any modern browser supports the fetch API. Basically, what Axios did, I mentioned this because last year I saw a couple of students installing Axios by default because they're used, they've been told use Axios and they never question why. So if you use Axios, I don't say you need to drop it. Please don't mistake my message. What I'm trying to say is that Axios was designed to be to make calls easier when the fetch API was not standardized and when the promises were not standardized across browsers. Now that both fetch API and promises are standardized, you don't need to actually use a library like Axios anymore. There are still some benefits when you actually have a really complex project, but for the scope of this course and the scope as a position and junior front-end developer, you can get by with just using the standard browser implementation. In fact, some recruiters will actually, if a recruiter sees you using the fetch instead of Axios and he asks you, and you answer that the reason is because the browsers are comfortable enough, they will actually like this answer because recruiters also dictate if a student is, it's a candidate is using a library that basically is redundant or not useful anymore just because somebody taught you to use it. So if you don't question your authority, if you don't actually question whatever we're teaching you and you just use it because you've been told that that you need to use this, at one point that particular library will become obsolete. And if you can keep using it and somebody interviews you, you will be in trouble because you're using obsolete technology. Web development changes so fast that you need to be up to speed and see which ones. So in this case, we're gonna use the fetch API, that's it. And sorry for the rant, let's continue. So, well, we're gonna pass we actually need to pass one parameter. We don't see anything to see what is happening. We're gonna wrap it up the fetch inside another console log. And we see that we still cannot see our JSON file, but we got a weird thing called a promise. And what is a promise? Well, we need to start talking about synchronous sync and async code. Synchronous code means that it runs from top to bottom without any issues. The problem with the and the asynchronous code means that it runs at different times. And in this particular case, we have a problem. No matter how fast your internet speed is, as soon as you're trying to make an API call, there is going to be a delay. So your code will this line will mess it up with the entire flow of your program, because we don't know if the information from the JSON will be ready in 1 second, 1 minute, or even will never be arrive. So to handle this one, we in the old times we use callbacks. So basically, as soon as we make a call, we pass a function, and the second function actually was the one that was running to tell us when the code was ready. The problem that with that one is if you hear about it, we are sending a function inside another function. So to call another function is a tongue twister, and writing code about that is even harder. So promises make this process easier by allowing us to write something real easy. So for example, in this case, writing then, and another catch block for catch in case there is an error. So we're gonna see these two in detail. Let me put it in the next line, and we're gonna see this in detail. So for example, the first case, I will write the error case. So for example, if we have an error, we're gonna trace the error. We're gonna use the arrow functions, and remember, in React, we're gonna use arrow functions all the time. I put a couple of videos in the last slide from the JavaScript class about arrow functions and filter and reduce. I hope that you watch it. In this case, I will do a console log saying, tracing why this error happened. So, and now let's gonna, oh, sorry, this one is in this line. There you go, console log. Ah, okay, sorry. The reason this is failing is because I was doing this one first. Perfect. So I know that it's not an error here, but we still don't see our data. To see our data, we need to wait until we have a response from the server. And how do we do that? We use another arrow function, in this case, the response, arrow function. And then I can say console log the response. And let's see what is happening. We can see that the response is the result of the API. We have a status 200. Status 200 means that we connected to the server successfully, and we got data back. We can see the URL of the API. We have another confirmation that the status is okay. We have the headers. The headers, just like in the HTML head, is additional information about our API code. But we still don't see our JSON data. We only care about the JSON data. So how do we see that? The answer is we need to transform this response, the data inside this response, into a JSON format. So for example, I can do that by doing the following line. I can do response.json. I will convert this one to a JSON. That is a format that JavaScript can handle. But the response.json is async as well. So I need to wait until the task is ready. So I can change another then. In this case, I will put it here to make it more organized. I can put it here. And once this one is ready, I will do an arrow function. And I can see now finally console log data. And if everything goes well, now I can have an array of the object codes that we were seeing in a couple of minutes ago. So we can see that we have 10 items starting from index 0. We have 10 items, and I can actually expand each one to see the particular information. And now, based on this information, we can either call another function or write code here to write this information on the screen. I want to skip that one. I will leave that as a task for you. You can actually, for example, if you actually expand this one, you want to make a multi-line code, you can do the console log here. For example, alert data positions 0. It will trace an object, but you can actually start playing around, for example, .0.id or .sender, and say the name of the queries that we can see that. So you can start writing, for example, you can add, for example, to this one, you can add another P tag, pass an ID, text. I will overwrite this with the API result. So after that, we can actually start writing const text equal document get element by ID. And by ID, I will use text again, text. And now instead of making the alert, I will actually put text inner HTML equal data, for example, 0.sender. I will close this one. And look at what happened. If I reload the page for 1 second, you will see the information. I will overwrite this with an API result. And as soon as the API code is fulfilled, I convert it to JSON. And as soon as the JSON is parsed, because that takes time, this line of code runs. If I, for example, if I put this constant here, and I write for example, this one. As you can see, this line of code in 9.11 never appears on the screen because as soon as you open the script, line 16 is overwriting this text, and you can see the hello for a couple of seconds. But this override over here takes a couple of seconds, depending on the internet speed. No matter how fast your internet speed it is, this line of code takes a couple of seconds to happen, and that's why you can see for a couple of seconds you see the word hello before it's overwritten by the sender of the API. Then the reason that you can see each time that reload the page, you see a different name here, is because the API is designed to give random names and random geographical coordinates each time that you reload the page. So yeah, this is the basics of how to work with the Fetch API in pure JavaScript. But we're going to see that into detail when we start doing that in React, because as you can see, the problem with doing this in pure JavaScript is once you get information here, it's really a pain to work around the rest of to cooperate with the rest of the web page. And this is one of the benefits of React. React works in a totally different way. And once you have the information fetched, it's super easy to manipulate the rest of the web page using React. So we are going to start doing that right now. So I will close this one. I will actually push it so you can have it right now. Fetch example. I will push it right now, so you will have this example right now in your Git repository. Remember, you need to do a pull to see the changes. If you actually already cloned the project before, pull so you can see the latest one that is 5 fetch live. So with this quick example out of the way, now we can focus on React. And React is going to take the entire week, so let's not waste any more time with this one. So first, as always, let's see a quick example of a quick table of introduction to see the topics that we're going to cover. The very basics that I hope that we can cover today are a quick introduction, how to create the standard way to create a React project, React variables, and if you see the icon, a weird icon here, there is a concept called React hooks that we're going to see it today. Then we're going to see how to create components. And finally, we saw a meme today with Hermanus about passing props, and this is not a joke. Basically, this is most of the tasks that you were gonna do in a normal React project. And and this is, I hope to cover this today, but this is not, this table of contents is not organized by days, organized by the difficulty of the concepts. So these are the basic ones. And after that, advanced concepts like event triggers, the React router, install external components, so you get used to do that, this kind of stuff. Finally, handling the global state. We're going to do a quick example using Recoil. And finally, again, doing fetch data, but using the React way, because it's kind of different. How do you handle the state, this kind of information in React? So a quick introduction of what is React. React allows you to create single page applications. And what did I mean by that? Before we have these frameworks like React, Angular, and Vue, and plenty others that we have now nowadays. Making a web page always felt like it always felt totally different than a desktop application. The reason being is that each time that you click on a link, you will lose the information that you have right now on the screen. Go to a blank screen for a couple of seconds until the new web page is downloaded from the server and start rendering again. So you will, 10 years ago was quite difficult to make a real business application using the web, and nobody took seriously the web as a platform to make applications. Something that has changed totally in the last 5 years, and now you see a boom here in Sweden as a position as front-end developers appear left and right, because now you can actually build real applications on the web that even yeah, sorry.
Was that an internet speed issue? Like, was the logic behind it? Was just like, oh, the internet's not fast enough for anyone to be accessed?
Yeah, now that's a beautiful question. And the answer is, as I mentioned before, the problem was no matter how fast is your internet speed, just as the example that I showed you a couple of seconds ago with the Fetch API, that even if you start the page and you saw a line of code overwriting the paragraph, and then the second overwrite happened a couple of seconds later due to the Fetch API, imagine something similar, but each time that, for example, imagine that you want to use Gmail. Yeah, this is the perfect example. Let me just give me 1 second with this one. Gmail. Let me see if the Software Development Academy emails opens by default. No. So let me change it to this one. So okay, imagine 10 years ago, a normal company wants to build a similar application like a Gmail. Each time that you press a link, you will have seen a white screen. Imagine this change super fast, but imagine that each time that you click a link, you go to a blank screen for a couple of seconds until you load the data and appears again. If I click here, I will see the screen for a couple of seconds blank until the results appear. Then if I go back here, I will go to a blank screen for a couple of seconds until I can see the results. And if I click on the email, if I click here, I will see a blank screen for a couple of seconds until the information is downloaded and I can see the results. So 10 years ago, nobody took web development seriously, only for the most basic information. And if you actually wanted to achieve a similar result, you could use something called Ajax. It was quite complicated. To be honest, the more complex the project it was, the more things started to break down. And remember that if you put on top that JavaScript was quite dumb, to be honest, a couple of years ago. It was not until 2015 that we have the new syntax, the new version of JavaScript called ES6 that adds the functional programming, the Fetch API, the promises, the async await, and so on and so forth. That makes JavaScript a more decent modern language. I still will not call JavaScript fast. It was never intended to be fast. I will not even call it secure because you know that you don't have a strong typing, but at least it has modern features like the functional programming and this fetch and promises and async await. So it makes more tolerable to manageable to write web applications using JavaScript. But long story short, it was the user experience. It was not the speed. It was that it was the lag. Each time that you click on something, you will not see the results immediately. You will need to see a blank screen until the information goes to the server and goes back to your computer to showcase the result. So that was a really terrible user experience. People didn't like it. It was so hard to build anyways, so nobody actually built it, and so it was a really bad situation. After that, Angular appeared on the screen on the scene by Google, and I think that everything from Google is built using Angular, either the classical one or the new version. So this allows us to create single page applications. And what are single page applications? Simple. Each time that you click on here, even if you can see that the URL changes, for example, right here and slash inbox, and I go to slash start, we are still actually on the same web page. We actually never change the link here. We are here, still here, but the only thing that is happening is, as soon as I click here, JavaScript makes a request, goes to the server, get the request, and don't reload the entire web page. Only reload the part of the web page that needs to be changed. In this case, this one. So, for example, remember that both Lucas and Assad were talking about how much was a repetitive task using the header tag, the header over and over in the 4 pages. We got the recommendation of using iframes. Well, this problem is solved by using a single page application, because we are still in the original web page that we reloaded at the beginning, and we are only changing this particular div. Only this div, we're changing it. This part, once we load this sidebar, the sidebar will stay with us during the entire life cycle of the application. So you don't need to download the same sidebar over again. So that's a save of resources. You don't need to do a page reload that actually shows the screen blank for a couple of seconds. So the experience becomes so much nicer using single page applications. There's another benefit. Yeah, go ahead.
What's the difference between a single page application and using tabs within your page?
Yeah, good question. If you're actually using tabs in your own web, you're using tabs to build your web page. Okay, you're basically making that particular page a single page application. As soon as you need to navigate to another part of your web page, you are going to another page, and you're doing the reload again. And you may say, but I can code my entire web page to use only tabs. And then I will answer you, good luck having every line of code in a single HTML file. It will be a hell. Imagine that you use tabs to do this. That means that the entire HTML file for Gmail will have the sidebar. Remember, if we're using semantic tags, this is an aside. This will be the main tag. And if you start writing code about tabs, it will mean that you will have the code for this one. Imagine in HTML code, all the tags from here to here, then the code for social. Right after the primary tag, you imagine that this code in tags go from here to here. Then social, you will go from here to here, and then promotions will be from here, and I don't have a space in the screen. What I'm trying to say, if you try to replicate the entire functionality of Gmail using just tabs, you will have a single HTML file that is so big and so convoluted that if you make a mistake, for example, right in the middle, it will be a pain to solve, because you have so many HTML tags in a single file that you don't know where to start. So another advantage of having a single page application is that you can break it down, your web page, into small components, and we're gonna see into detail what are components. So you can actually compose your web page on smaller blocks of code that you can actually organize in separate files, and then you can debug the social part in a separate file, and it will be easier to just focus on this particular code. But once the page is rendered, it will become a single large file, just as the one that you code with tabs.
Cool.
So,
Thanks.
So yeah, the answer is yes, for a small project, you can get by with using tabs, but the more larger the project becomes, it will be, they will reach a point that is human mistakes happens all the time. But at one point will be so impossible to handle the human mistakes that you will need to drop the idea, and then you will need to split your project back again into pages, and then you will lose the smooth animation of the tabs. So yeah, to have the best of the both worlds, and you can use single page applications. So let's go back to the introduction. There you go. So another advantage is the reusable components. And let me go back again to Gmail, because I really think that this is the best example. Imagine that I get an email right now. I need to, as soon as I get an email, I will not need to refresh the page, because I know that there is a constant connection to the server, the Fetch API, and I will see the email here. But this is the hard part. If I need to update the number of emails here as well, then I need to write even more lines of code. And if I, for example, if I had a filter to, for example, each time that I get an email from Katis, it will go to a special folder. I will need to update the inbox with +1, but also the folder tag about Katis with also +1. So that means that each time that you need to refresh an email, you need to write lines of code. Imagine if instead of needing to write code each time that I need to update a number, I just can tell each part of my code base, hey, be ready to update yourself each time this particular action happens, and then the code will be self-manageable. So something that you can do with reactive data that we're gonna see again into detail once we enter each of the React contents. So okay, let's keep going. Oh, actually, I have the explanation here of the what are SPAs, but okay, I think it's the same explanation I just made. And the image that you can see on the right is the project that we're gonna build in class during these days. It's not the same project that you need to build on your own. There will be a case study that you will get the same instructions that I got, and then you will need to build the project. You will have 4 days to complete the project. Full disclaimer, for a real coding application, you only get around 2 to 3 days. I will give you 4, so you can code it with all the pace on your own, and you will have the advantage of asking the TAs as well, something that you will not have in a real coding interview. But as I told you in the beginning of the kickoff last week, I really wanted to work on real data. So we're gonna go into detail of the final project of the project when I release it tomorrow. But I wanted to just to make a disclaimer. This one is gonna be built on class. You don't need to build it on your own. But of course, if you finish this project, the second one will be, of course, easier. So just something to consider. By it doesn't mean that you for this week you need to deliver 2 projects. I don't want to stress you out. If this one is the one that we're gonna build on class, you will use it as a practice, and the other one is the real project that we actually need to build on your own. So, okay, let's continue. Benefits of React versus JavaScript alone, reusable components. I mentioned that a little bit before. Reactive data, that means that, as I told you, if you get an email and you need to update the inbox, but you also have a subfolder for special emails, you need to update 2 parts of the code. With reactive data, you can tell this beforehand to these particular elements. Be prepared to update your data automatically if something happens. And the next one, something important, is increased performance when we are rendering multiple elements on the screen. And this is important. We are talking about manipulating the DOM. React, at the end, is JavaScript. Just like yesterday, we were having a conversation about TypeScript. TypeScript will not make your code, technically, it will not make your code faster, because TypeScript will become JavaScript at the end after the compiler create the code. Something similar with React. React will actually, is JavaScript code, but you will see an increased performance when you actually render multiple elements on the screen. Why? And the answer is simple. There is a concept called the virtual DOM in React. And to explain the virtual DOM, I need to actually go with a small recap of the DOM, the JavaScript DOM. So if you can see the mouse, I'm hovering around the HTML tag right now. Imagine that you want to modify this LI. And after the next line of code, you want to modify this LI. And you were going to skip this one. Remember, the DOM needs to travel from here to here. And the travel is here to here to here. And then if you want to modify in the next line of code, this one, you cannot just go here and then go here. It needs to travel back here, 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 and down here. And the more nested is your project, this traveling time will start affecting the performance of your screen. So if imagine when you were using applications on the web maybe 5 years ago, sometimes you experience that you press a button and there is a delay for a couple of seconds before something happens on the screen. And you know that this is not information being stored on the server. It's something that is, for example, you upload an image and you wanted to apply a filter or make this image smaller, and it's processing. And this was the problem. The problem was JavaScript was traversing from here to here to here. And if you want to make a change right here next to this one, you need to go back here, here, and here. So the engineers at Facebook, they have an advantage that they have a super well-staffed and well-funded team. They realize that, for example, in this particular case, all the changes are happening around here. These tags cannot see each other. You don't see the lines connecting with each one, but you can see that all the changes are happening around this area, this particular area. So they decided, what if we create a copy of the JavaScript DOM in the memory? I know that this sounds super inefficient because now you have two DOMs, the real DOM in memory, and then React is making another copy. So that means that it's super inefficient. It's consuming memory, yes, consuming more memory, but performance is more, being fast, showing stuff on the screen faster is better than consuming more or less RAM. So anyways, React creates a copy of the DOM and then analyze where are the changes happening. So in this case, it realized that the changes are only here, and in the next line of code, the next change is here. So it combines information, and when all the changes are calculated and React is ready to render something on the screen, it tells to JavaScript, hey, change this block, this part entirely. Don't do this, and then wait until you figure it out that there is another change here and go back here. So make all these changes at the same time, and that improves the performance. In this small example, doesn't make that much sense. But imagine that you actually have a list with 100 items. JavaScript will go here, one step, then go here, next step, go here to the right, and so on and so forth 100 times, repeating this path entirely. Super inefficient. React will say, you know what? Just delete this entire part and copy the new UL with the 100 items at the same time. So that's much faster. Let me show you. Let me actually let me exit the slides and show me a better example so you can understand the performance advantage of the DOM. So if we are on the UL tag, let me use the same colors so you can realize this one. UL. Let me just literally copy this one. Let me copy these lines here real quick. There we go. I will put it in a lighter shade so you can see it. So imagine that you need to make a change in this LI. We already spoke about this one. You go here, and then you go here for the second one. And if you need to add more elements on the screen, each time that you want to add one, you need to go here, 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 and then you're allowed to do that. And if you want to add even more LI items, and then let me just copy this one real quick. If you want to add another item, you cannot do that. You need to go here, 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 and then create a line, And finally, you're allowed to create a new element. This is the JavaScript way, and we saw that during the to-do list exercise, and it's quite inefficient. Imagine if you actually want to do this, it will take a lot of time. So React, what it does is, this is JavaScript. Let me just take a copy. JavaScript. And let me put React here on the right. React takes a copy of your project in memory. It realized that you want to modify this one, so React is more smart and made the change. It sees that you want to make a change here. It makes the change here. And then it realized that you want to add even more new elements. So for example, in case the copy here in memory, tag, tag, tag. Then create the lines, tag, tag, tag. And this is the fun part. When we need to synchronize this one to this one, instead of wasting the time and go back here, 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 then here, 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 React is super intelligent and says, you know what, JavaScript, I have a new UL list for you. Group it to get a group set, cuts. You delete this one and tells JavaScript, you know what, I have a new UL list. So delete this one and use the new one. So JavaScript doesn't know that he actually needs to update a couple of LI items one by one. He actually React sends the entire URL tag at the same time, and you only go from here to here to here, and it's faster. It's way faster because JavaScript is dumb, and because JavaScript is dumb, React takes advantage of that, and it tells it, you know what? There is instead of telling there is a couple of five new LI tags, so JavaScript doesn't need to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. React tells him, hey, there is a new UL, put it, and JavaScript says, oh, okay, there is a new UL. So tag, tag, boom, one change, and you have the entire LI items updated and added in a single pass. That means that the more items you need to run on the script, React will become more and more faster than JavaScript ever done. And that's because JavaScript model is extremely inefficient. But React is smart enough to see where the changes are happening and then just pass the entire block where the changes occur. And JavaScript doesn't need to overdraw everything line by line and just go in one single sweep the entire changes. So that's why React is so fast. But remember, we are talking about fast when showing elements on the screen. By writing functions and manipulating data, React is going to be as fast as JavaScript because it's JavaScript. So we are talking about performance on showing elements on the screen, not by creating just functions. So your functions in React will be as fast or as slow as you coded in JavaScript, and the same with TypeScript. Your TypeScript functions will be as fast or as slow as your JavaScript functions. So something to consider by. And I have a question here, so I will check it. Yeah, so I got a question. So basically, is React basically making copy and paste of only the parts of change of the code? Yeah, that's it. Congratulations, you got the concept. So as you can see, React is smart enough and just copy and paste the parts that actually need to be changed instead of going step by step. So congratulations. That's exactly what the React is making.
A question here.
Yeah.
So when React is trying to find the place where it needs to do the changes, so it is also following the same way like how it is done in HTML, right? Like checking each tag one by one, like if this is where we have to make the change, no, if this is where we have to make the change. So React is also following the same algorithm, right, as HTML in the first place. Yeah, but it's not rendering on the screen until actually passes the data back to JavaScript. But also, as soon as React has a couple of optimizations behind the scenes. So, for example, when I was creating, let me show the next slide. Just, yeah, that one. As soon as I wanted to add elements,
React has optimizations to know that if we're working, for example, inside the URLI, a URL tag, and if you're talking about LI, you're probably talking about siblings that they are on the same level. So React knows how to do that without going back to the level. So there is a couple of optimizations behind the scenes. So the JavaScript, the virtual DOM doesn't need to do all this trouble over and over again when they need to meet these updates. That's the reason that when I was adding these ones, the orange ones, I was not making this click, 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 and then click. React is smart enough to just do that instead of going here, 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 and then do that. Otherwise, the performance difference will be minimal. So yeah, there is a lot of optimization behind the React framework or library, actually library that happens behind the scenes. And there is something called the React DOM that actually takes that into detail. If you want to see more details about that, you can see about this video about the DOM. And after go with the DOM, you can start researching about the advantages of the virtual DOM. So I hope that that answers the questions, because yes, I know if React needs to actually traverse the tree over and over again, then there will be no advantages. React actually, the Facebook team that built React made a couple of changes behind the scenes to actually avoid wasting traveling back and forth as much as possible.
Just one more question. So in that case, if I understood it correctly, so in if there are changes in 3 different UL tags, so in that, and for the 3 different UL tags, so if the React is doing the change, then it will take almost as much time as it takes when we do the changes from the HTML. I mean, if the changes are at 3 different ULs, right? Because then it will again have to go back and check one by one, because it's not at the same place as the changes. So is that correct?
For example,
then the React will not be as effective.
Yeah, okay. If you're telling me about the spraying the changes across multiple parts of the project, yeah, then you will the optimization parts will not be as efficient. But based on normal scenarios, let me just go with this particular one in Gmail. The engineers of Facebook realized that most of the changes happens in the very same sector. For example, if you get a new email, and imagine that I don't know which tag is used in Gmail for this one. I can just right-click and inspect it, but I will not do it right now due to time constraints. But imagine that this is a URL list. If you get a new email, it will be a new LI item. So based on analytics, and remember, we're talking about the company that basically knows everything about everybody. So based on the usage pattern of the people, they realize that the applications as well change almost always in the same sector. So the optimizations are designed usually around these particular scenarios, because this scenario is the most common one, and you will see it when we actually build the YouTube project and the real coding interview test project that you will build. That you will see that the most changes happen around this part. So this is the most common scenario. Thus, this is what React is ultra designed to optimize. But yeah, if you make these changes here, but you also need to make change here and then changes around here, then you will start losing the performance advantage. That's something that is true, but it still will be faster than pure JavaScript.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. And let me see a couple of more questions before we move to the next topic. How the React find where should possible changes be made? I mean the path. Okay, that's a good question. How the React find the path? Remember that when we wanted to manipulate, for example, the URL, we added an ID, right? Let me put the question here in the pool so everybody can see the question, because I want to see that everybody. So this one, how React find where should a particular change occur? Remember that when we wanted to manipulate a URL tag, we put it in ID or a class name. Remember that one? Yes, no? In JavaScript, when we want to manipulate the URL tag, we put it in an ID or a class.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. We also said that when we wanted to, that we also can call tags by, we can also call the HTML tags by the tags themselves. But I also warn you that was super dangerous, because if you, for example, want to modify something about li, and you just call li, it will modify every single li tag as well. So React behind the scenes, even if you don't see it, React actually puts an ID to each element on the screen, even if you, and it's called the reference. So behind the scene, each time that you put something on the screen, you will have an ID with a code. You don't see that, you don't need to do that. So React knows each element has a particular code. So when they detect the changes, they don't. This is another optimization. Perfect. So they don't need to traverse the tree. They go directly by the ID. Imagine if you try to write this optimization by hand. Imagine that each time that you wanted to create an element on pure JavaScript, you need to add IDs to everything. At one point, you will make a human mistake of writing the same ID for the same element. So for example, right now, this one, here I made a mistake. For example, this one is 54355. This one is 5435. This is okay. This one and this one and this one are the very same ID. And I just was typing super fast, but due to chances, because I was using only 3 keys, I actually wrote this two, because this is 54, this is 5353. So by pure chance, I actually wrote the same combination of numbers. So you can make a mistake and use the same ID twice, and you are not supposed, and then your code will start giving problems. But React makes the numbers a sequence, so you will never have problems having duplicate IDs. So React puts an ID to everything. And again, you will say, Eduardo, this has to take so much memory. And the answer is yes, it takes more memory, because now your HTML tags all the time has an ID tag, and that started to consume memory RAM. But again, everybody has 8 gigabytes of RAM right now. I don't say, hey, code lazily and don't give a shit about optimization. But what I'm trying to say is, the reason that React is fast is because all these kind of little tricks that it has behind the scenes that allows you to increase performance. So if you go directly by ID, you can skip traversing the tree. So this is another optimization process that React has to go to reach the destination faster. So this is how React actually solves this question. Another one, so in a way, we have a single page on the screen that it refreshes in response of any changes. The keyword is not refresh. It's just literally if, for example, if I need to change from tabs, what is happening is on Friday I show you how to add elements on the screen, but and something that I told all my mentees is think that each time that if you add something, and I remember doing that during Friday. If you create a function to add something on the screen, each time that you hear the word add, you need to be mentally prepared to create the function, the opposite function, remove. So in this case, when we are changing tabs, what is happening is I don't refresh the page. Is as soon as I click social, the primary content here disappears from literally. Imagine that is the UL tag. It will be removed from the screen, UL tag, and this one will be add on the screen. And when I click here, this will be removed from the screen, and this will appear on the screen. We are not making changes in the browser at all. That's the reason that, for example, you can even see that the inbox doesn't. You don't change the URL here, and the only reason that the notice this hashtag, by the way, this is super important. This is something called React route related to the router, and that's a more advanced topic that we're gonna see on Tuesday. But now that we are actually mentioning it, it's okay that we mention it a little bit. The reason that this hashtag exists is not because it needs to refresh the page. It's because if I reload the page for some reason right now, I go to the start page. I don't go back to the inbox. So this is something that is important in applications. So for example, if you were opening, for example, I open a PowerPoint slide and close the PowerPoint slide, but I was in slide number 10. The next time that I open PowerPoint again, I will be on page 10 instead of going back to the beginning. That's something that 5 years ago was basically super hard to simulate using a web application. You will need it to store in a cookie. Imagine that you need to store in a cookie this, or sorry, no, forget about cookies. That's super old. You can see my age right now speaking about cookies. Imagine that you need to store that in a local storage that we saw on Friday. And each time that the user refers the page, you need to store the information and retrieve it. You can see how convoluted is that just to achieve the same user experience. By using the hashtag, you can actually tell the browser, open my web application, but don't start on the first page. Start at this page or this page and this page and so on and so forth. So this is what the advantage of our single page applications. You don't need to reload the page at all. That's the whole point. You are inside a single page, and in this case, the page is the Gmail page, and you don't change from here at all. And in changing the only thing that you can see the change in the URL is because of the React router, and only because we want to keep the last open page known in case that for some reason for example, I lose the internet connection. If I click turn on Wi-Fi off, I will lose the internet access and I need to reload the page. That's why it appears. But otherwise, you will never see the URL change at all. So yeah, that's an advantage of a single page applications. So let's continue. We're gonna learn to do React, as I mentioned before, by building this small YouTube site. Let me do a quick look it up. Let me see if I have the project open. And React project, React 2, perfect. No worries, we're gonna build them from the scratch. I just want to open the link that I have for this one. Oh, by the way, this project is already unlocked. And if you wanted to complete the entire project in one single day, there is actually a tutorial that goes step by what we wanted to cover in 1 or 2 or maybe 3 days is entirely written into guides. For example, you can see it right now. If I open this one and see the preview, open preview, you can see the entire thing that we're going to cover today. You can see it as a writing tutorial. So if you want to go ahead and actually finish the project in one single day, you can do it, by the way. But if not, don't worry. We're going to cover the step by step during this Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But anyways, I just want to show the finished project. So I have it here, follow link, open. So this is the one that we're gonna build. It's not 100% the YouTube functionality at all. And the videos, instead of loading from the real YouTube server, they're loading from Firebase hosting. So it's not the same performance as the real YouTube servers, but we're gonna build something like this. If I click here and go to the next page, I play the video and give it a couple of seconds. You can see it, and if you can click here, go back, and you can see how fast the performance it is between changes to pages. This is a single page application, and of course, I will expect that you can build it for mobile. That is not even part of the question. Of course, it needs to work in multiple columns, so on and so forth. Yep, we're gonna build this starting today.
What is the in-page? Is like, does there have to be like an in-page media player?
This one?
Yeah, is this like a specific kind of in-page media player? I'm just not sure how these things work because.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the native the native HTML video tag. I actually in the HTML cheat sheet I actually have information about how to use this one.
Okay.
Yep. But we're gonna cover that when we reach the part when we reach to make this the second page. We're gonna explain that one in detail.
Are there different types? Like if there's a native HTML video tag, yes. Like are there different types of in-page media players?
Everything on the web. Again, let's go back to the past to make it easier to explain. before the HTML5 video tag became standardized, the way to make a video on the web was using something real old called Real Player. It was super crappy, but because it was designed even before the broadband. So the internet was not designed to handle video at all when it was originally designed by telephone lines. After we had broadband, Flash came, and actually Flash is known for websites and video games, but also the reason that YouTube became popular, it was because the less known feature of Flash was standardization of the video player. Flash had his own video player. It was quite good. That was actually the beginnings of YouTube, until the HTML tag become dominant. Now you can actually, if you want to have a nice video experience, you can use JavaScript libraries that improve the native HTML video tag by adding stuff like buffering, custom controls, and so on and so forth. But even YouTube actually use behind the scenes, if you actually inspect an element inside YouTube, actually let me open YouTube real quick. You will see that at the end it will become, for example, let me see this one. Let me just pause it. By the way, you see that you cannot see the normal right click of YouTube because they actually have hijacked the right click element. Remember, remember that we thought about on click, so you can actually do the right click as well as an event, but you can actually get back to the real functionality if you do a second right click, and you can see a spec element. And at one point, you can see that this is a video tag as well. So YouTube is using the native video tag as well. They only customize the controls and add all the nice buffering options and the switch video stream options and so on and so forth. But at the end, it's the same HTML5 video tag that we're using here. The only thing is that they wrap it up inside a div tag, and they add hundreds or thousands of lines of code to actually improve the experience by adding a lot of nice features. So yeah, that will be it.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
super
no problem. Yeah, no, it's super important that you feel comfortable understanding what we are going to build. So we are gonna build this one. So for example, you saw this one, even if it's not the same design as you use in your small website, you probably remember the no hard. I don't think that hard was the keyword, but you probably experienced how frustrating was making the product page, because if you in one point decided to change the design of the presentation of the product, you needed to change it in all of the and the other 7 products, and the same with the cupcake way. And so, for example, I will ask a question: did anybody have a problem that they made the product page and they wanted to make a change in the change in the product, and by the product I mean an individual item like this one, and then you needed to modify the HTML tag for this one, and so on and so forth? Did somebody experience something like that?
Sure, yeah, I had to.
Yeah, well, React will allow you to actually make one template for this one, and then just by combining JSON data, just replicate all this and make the changes on the fly. So there's another advantage of using React. So yeah, the product page on the small cupcake website was annoying design on purpose, so you can appreciate the components in React. So yeah, sorry for that one. That was on purpose, to be honest. So let's go back. So first things first, we need to create a React project. We're not gonna see this screen. This screen looks horrible. Let me go step by step. But anyways, what do we need? First, we need to create a repository. That's the number 1. And this is something important. This is not obligatory to do it, but each time that you start a new React project, it's gonna be a project that is 1,000 times harder than a normal website. So I really recommend you that instead of adding Git in the middle of the project, you get used to creating the Git repository at the very beginning. So how do you do that? Let's do it right now. So for example, I will close this one and this one. I will use Bitbucket, but GitHub is the same stuff. It's the same stuff as GitHub and GitLab. I use Bitbucket because 5 years ago it was the first one to offer small teams for free, small teams private repositories for free. So that was a quite nice detail. So I will create a quick and dirty repository. I will create, for example, YouTube live. I will not call it, I will say GT live. I will not use dashes because people are starting to see confused by the dashes. Don't get confused. I will call this one YouTube live. I will not make it a private. I don't want to be private. And I will create a repository. Oh, I needed to put it in a project, so I will put it inside my SDA project. Okay. I will create a repository. There you go. So I have my empty repository. I will clone it. Perfect. I will clone it. And let's say that I want to store it in the documents folder. You can save it wherever you want, but for now, I will put it in the documents folder. So how do I do that? Remember, if you press LS, is list subfolders. So I will show any folders below the MacBook Pro folder that is mainly the hard drive. And to navigate CD documents, I will put LS to see, and I have my design, my dep folder. I usually put the stuff here, but I will do it just for fun. I will put it just for a quick demo. I will put it here on purpose. So git clone. Is clone, of course, is empty. I will double check that it was perfectly cloned. I will press LS, and you can see I have the folder design, my folder dep, my folder video production, and my folder GT live. YT live, sorry. So now what's the next step? Inside the folder, remember, we are not inside the folder YT YouTube live. We are inside the documents folder. This is crucial. Inside this folder, you actually put npx, no npm, is npx. X is on purpose. This is the new syntaxes for npm, and React is using the big one. For more details of what is the difference, check it out online. But I think the overview is that this one takes care and has better security handling. I think npm actually tries to access the root, always tries to get the root access, and that's the reason that sometimes fails and you need to use the password. This one is the same about the modern operating systems security layer, so this one is supposed to work more smoothly, but you can research that on your own. But anyways, npx create dash react app. And this is crucial. You need to use the same name of the folder that you create here, YT live. And we're going to start creating the project. If you use a different name, you will create a second folder, and then one folder will be your React project, and another folder will be your Git repository. And don't enter inside the YouTube live and then clone create a React project here, because otherwise you will have a folder over a folder. And trust me, as a recruiter, and I've been on the position as a recruiter, by the way, there is nothing more annoying than reading the entire CV of a candidate, taking the time to read the entire 1 or 2 pages of a CV, and open the first Git repository, and then see, for example, YouTube live, and you open this folder, and then there is a second YouTube live folder. And you realize, okay, this coder doesn't have a fucking idea how to organize projects. This person cannot work with a team, so you just waste 5 or 10 minutes of your life as a recruiter reading the CV, because as soon as I see that the person create a YouTube live, and then inside this folder there is another folder with the same name, there I realize this guy doesn't know how to organize projects. I will not hire this person. And if you think that recruiters cannot be as picky or crazy as Eduardo, you are fucking wrong. When you have to interview 200 people, as a job, trust me, you lose sensitivity, and you start disqualifying candidates left and right for the most small mistakes, because if they can make mistakes on small stuff like these ones, they will make forget about this error. It's gonna work anyways. I tried anyways. They will make mistakes in more complex stuff. So this is super important. And we're gonna see how the project is organized as soon as it's installed. So just give it 1 second. Remember that the reason is a little bit slow right now is because while I am downloading the files from the internet, I am making the streaming of the Zoom call. So that is why it's taking so long. When actually you do it offline, it goes way faster. So let's wait a couple of seconds. And there you go, it's ready. And to start the project, you can actually remember we are still in the documents. We are still in documents. So to start the project, you enter now you can enter your own folder. Finally, YouTube Live, and press npm start. And if everything goes well, I really hope that I don't look like a fool in front of everybody. A project just started to work. The first time it takes a little bit of time to load, but there you go. You have a React project, and this is important. What happens if you close the project and you want to open again? Where's the link? You just need to type localhost 3000. This is what is localhost? Okay, this is super important. We are not working with the static HTML files anymore, my dear students. Now we are working. React is making a small server for us to test changes, and it's called localhost 2.3000. So if you open here, you can see my changes here. So
what if we have more than one React file?
Sorry, what?
What if we have more than one React file?
If you have more than one React file at the same time, React will ask you a question. The second time that you put npm start, it will ask you a question. There is already a project running on localhost 3000. Do you want to override it? And that will mean that close the server for the first project and restart the server for the second project, or it will allow you to create a second server at localhost 3001. So yeah, you can have multiple projects side by side.
So localhost 3000 is default.
The default, yeah. The default for React, remember, because for example, Vue uses localhost, I think it was either 5,000 or 8,000. But again, each framework uses their own setup, their own stuff in their own way. But yeah, this is the link. You can even see it here. So for example, if you close your link, your project by mistake, just go to localhost 3000. Because, and this is important, let me open the project here. You can see Visual Studio is empty. It says open folder. Let's open this project. This one, YouTube Live. And we're gonna see, remember, you can see everything in green because let's do a small explanation about this before we take the break, by the way. I know that you've been taught about pushing using the terminal, but I will teach you right now how to do it using Visual Studio Code. So for example, you can see my green files as new files, and you can see this one in yellow, mustard color to be honest, because this one is modified. When I clone the project by the first time, we can verify this one by entering Bitbucket. I enter my project, SDA. It's called YouTube Live, right? This one. Right now in Git, the initial commit was 9 minutes ago when we created the empty project. So that file was created by Git before we even started. But this file, and let me see how the file was. What was the content of the files beforehand? well, there is a lot of information, but now that was modified even further thanks to React. React started to add even more information. So this is why it's modified, and the green ones are the new files. You can see this public folder. You're gonna probably think, oh, this is for Firebase. No, sir, this is totally different, and we're gonna explain it in a second. But let's go in order. This node module is the equivalent of your Maven or Gradle folder where all the dependencies. These are the dependencies that React created for his own project. This is this public folder is just the basic index HTML template. You can see that this index is empty, and it's empty on purpose because the only thing that there is inside this body tag is the ID root. So basically, React will work around this particular div tag. So everything in React will be inside this particular file. So anyways, they have all the normal tags, blah, 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 blah. You already know about these ones. And the icon, the favorite icon, images for higher resolution for mobile devices, tablets, blah, blah, blah. Information for the Google Analytics. So the Google Analytics spiders don't count as a users, and what sites they can access or which sites they cannot access. This is for progressive web apps. I can speak super quick about this one. A progressive web app, and this is that will be, trust me, if we have one more week of front-end development, I would love to actually speak about more advanced concepts like making a progressive web app. What is a progressive web app? A progressive web app is actually allowing to use an application when there is no internet connection by caching the resources. So for example, in Gmail, you can actually close and you can do this test during the break. You can disable your Wi-Fi, and you can still open the last opened emails because they are stored in your browser cache. And this one actually expands the limit of the 5 megabytes that you have in local storage. You can actually expand the limit. I don't remember by how much, but you can expand the limit thanks to this one, this property. This one also allows you to actually receive push notifications. So for example, if you get an email, in Gmail or a message in WhatsApp, and you have the browser closed, you can still get the push notification. So that's super cool stuff. So yeah, I hope that next year I can mention that one. And if I actually make a video about that, I promise to send you, each one of you, the link. I still have a little bit of contact with the people for the SDA 7. So if I make a video about progressive web apps, I promise to send the link to you guys. But anyways, this is a public folder, and this is not the folder for Google Firebase. When we reach Firebase with React, we're gonna see how to do that, by the way. And if you open this one, open with Rebellion Finder, you try to open this one, nothing is happening because you need to use the local server so React can render the stuff in real time. So how do we actually upload if you cannot use the index HTML file to open your project, how do you upload it to a website? We're gonna see that in the part 2 of the React tutorial. For now, I just wanted to showcase a small tour of the default project. And you can see this source folder. And you can see, to be honest, I don't like this disorder. I will actually organize it a little bit later. But you can see an app CSS for this dark gray background and this animation. You can see that it's an image rotating. You can have app.js. This is my standard React component. This is my test if you want to test components. This is the generic index CSS. This one belongs to this one. This one actually has only a small margin 0. If I delete the margin 0, you will see this annoying white border by default. By default, HTML has this white space on purpose. So if you actually want to make your screen reach to the border, you put margin 0 on the body tag, and there you go. You can now reach the full screen. And this one are just to make the text, the font size look smoother on the web, and so on and so forth. Okay, let's keep going. The index.html, index.js, sorry. This one is this is the file that React uses as a starting point to start compiling your components back into normal web pages. You can see the React DOM, the virtual DOM that we were speaking about. You can see we're importing React, and React actually have the DOM. This is the one that creates the copy of the JavaScript DOM and make all this optimization we mentioned a couple of minutes ago. This is the CSS file from here, this one. This is my first component that I'm instantiating here. And this is a debug file for React. It's an internal file. You can disable or enable as you want to. It's okay. And we can use the visual interface of Visual Studio Code to make our first commit. In this case, I will say I install a React application. I will save it, push it. You can push remote, blah, blah, blah. I will see why is the problem right now. Maybe, well, I will see what happened during the break. But anyways, it looks like it's actually, at least I did the commit. But okay, for now we have this part done. We actually solved a project. We need this to still cover points number 3, 4, and 5 today. So we're gonna take a 15 minutes break, and we're gonna continue. Okay, see you at 10:40.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hello, we are almost ready to go back. Just wait for 1 more minute.
Alright.
By the way, if you are following the help channel in Slack, yeah, it looks like if you have problems cloning the project, it's because Bitbucket actually crashed or has some server problems right now. If they are not solved by 12 o'clock, I will move the entire project to GitHub. To be honest, the reason I haven't done it is because I don't remember my password. So I hate to do the process of resetting the password and getting the test message and so on and so forth. But yeah, if it still has problems by 12, I move the repository.
Eduardo, can just everyone do the git clone command without having to go to the website?
Sorry, what?
Can't just everyone do the git command, git clone with the link, and then they will get the file anyway. You don't need to open the website.
Yeah, to be honest, you're right. You don't need to browse the project in Safari or in Chrome. Just clone the project directly. So yeah, but no, there was a specific server issue literally around the time that I made the second push, right before the break. So if somebody actually have a problem specific to that, it was because actually it made a problem. As soon as we started the break, I pushed it again, and it pushed it without any issues. And double check on the website, it was pushed, but I saw the yellow warning sign that Bitbucket has problems. So maybe somebody made a spelling mistake. Maybe somebody has the issue of the Safari, but compounded that at the very same time of the break, Bitbucket went down for a second. So that was a recipe for disaster. But anyways, let's get this started. We were right here browsing files. Let me start sharing the screen once again. There you go. So we were checking the index. This was the last one that we checked right before we went out on the break. So let me just make this window as smaller as possible. Yeah, there you go. And this one. So right now we're gonna focus on the React variables. But first, again, I really want to teach a little bit about project organization. So this, for a small, literally one-page project, it's more than it's disorganized, but it works. But if you actually want to be working on a more complex project, like the one that the case study that we are actually gonna do unlock on tomorrow, I really recommend that you start organizing your files. If you read the mandatory content called Atomic Design, you probably have an idea where we're heading to. But anyways, for now, let's focus on having a folder just for assets. So for example, if I have a logo type, I will put it here. If I want to be even more detailed, yeah, and that's normal because I just move a file. As soon as React cannot find a file, it will crash. So it's quite picky in when you put your file. So it's quite important to actually organize everything. So let me just go back quick to app.js. And here, instead of pointing to logo, I will point to /assets. And there you go, it's fixed. Now I will create one folder for CSS. I have, this is something important. You can either use the folder called CSS, or you can use, there is another convention called styles. Styles is used when you are not planning to use CSS files at all. You're probably thinking, yay, we can get by with making a web page without using CSS. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about different tools to write the CSS, like Sass, that will be mentioned on the optional lecture, in the next optional lecture. And you can use either Sass, Stylus, or so on and so forth. So even if we are going to use CSS files in this project, I'm got used to use the name styles as a convention. So I will put my files here. Here, it will crash again because it cannot find the file. So once again, I will say styles, and it's still crashing because this one still is looking for the file style. There you go, it's fixed. Now you can create a folder for your test. Right now we're gonna do we're not making test for this part of the course. So I want to delete the test here. And this one I will delete this one, but it doesn't mean that you don't need to make tests, by the way. It just means that for now we're not going to focus on that one. And this one can be important, so I just in case I will not delete it, and I will put a folder called report web vitals. Again, it breaks. You probably this one, why it doesn't source? It actually moved the file. Oh yeah. I needed to refresh the page. Yes, okay. So okay, I have my project organized, and this is something. It's not obligatory, but it's something to consider by. To quickly differentiate between your JavaScript files and your React components, I like to use the extension JSX. As soon as you write JSX, you can see that the icon changes. The page crashes. Don't worry about that. You only need to run the project again. You can either write npm start again, or by the way, in Visual Studio Code, you have this small window. You have your normal packet options, and you can do run npm start from here as well. And this was the one that we were talking about. There is a project already open on port 3000. Do you want to open a new project in a new port? Or do you want to keep the same port? If I put yes, it will open in 301, but I will tell the machine to restart the project. So I will say, no, keep the same port. So it will restart the project. So sorry, let me just start the project. Start. The project is already, okay, well, okay, running another port is okay. We just want to go. So now it's in localhost 301. And this one will work without any issues because we have the JSX file. Okay. So we have another instance of the server. This is not obligatory. It's only just so you can quickly visualize and realize which one are React components and which ones are normal JavaScript files. So let's keep going. Now, the next topic that we're going to cover, is now we already created the project, is React variables. The React hooks. What are React hooks? Well, one of the biggest problems with traditional JavaScript applications is maintaining the information synchronized across different parts of the app. Just as we saw in the example of Gmail, if I got a new email here, as soon as I got a new email, I need to look it up, the URL list that handles the email list, and add a new item from the list. Then I need to contact the sidebar and tell them to update and put the number 1 in the inbox. And if you have a folder for tags, you need to do the same as well, and so on and so forth. So it's quite annoying if you actually have multiple parts of the web application that needs to be synchronized. So instead of doing that, React actually allows you to change the logic, and instead of looking for each element of the screen that needs to be synchronized, you can actually tell them beforehand, each time that you create a component. For example, I can create a component for the sidebar and tell them there is a variable called email, and each time that is updated, you will need to update it as well, and the component will react automatically without your involvement. And that will actually make your code so much easier to handle, because you don't need to think in which part of the code I need to update. And remember, the more once you finish coding some part of the project, and you need to go back to modify it just to improve the extended functionality, you're probably start making bugs. So the more self-contained the components are, the better. So let's see that in action by doing something here. So first, how do we create hooks? Let me show you the syntax. We can actually start by this slide. We need 5 elements, and we're gonna see it right away in Visual Studio Code. First, you need to import the functionality called useState from React. Then you create an array. Yeah, an array. React is super weird, and this is something super important. The reason that we thought React, and this part should have been in the introduction. The reason we thought React is because it's the one with more market demand, not only in Sweden but across the planet. But React is super unorthodox, and even to have variables, you need to create arrays. Super weird, but inside the React work, it makes sense. And we're gonna see an example in real time right now to see how it goes. But after that, you create the array, you set the value, and then each time that you want to use the value, you put it here. So let's build this right now in React. I have my web page here. First, I need to import. In this one, I don't need to. I think I don't need to import the React one. Let me see. Import. I think React is already imported from the index. So in this case, I will use useState from React. And there you go. It's working. I have the useState. Now I can create a variable. And well, before that, let's analyze a little bit about our app. This is our main React component. And you can see right now that the only thing that it has, you're probably gonna say that this is HTML, but this is not HTML. Even if it looks 90% similar to HTML, this is something called JSX. And what is the difference between HTML and HTML? And this is gonna be in the quiz, for real. It's quite easy. The difference between HTML tags and JSX tags is that JSX tags allows you to have logic inside them. Something that HTML never allow you to do. If you wanted to use some JavaScript code, you write it inside the script tag, and then you use the DOM to actually put elements like, for example, const text document get element by ID text, and then text inner HTML equals the new piece of text. Here you can actually write variables and loops and so on and conditionals here without any issues. So even if it looks 90% like HTML, this is something it's an enhanced version invented by Facebook called JSX. So remember, long story short, HTML on the left doesn't have logic; it's only tags, and JSX on the right allows you to have logic. That's a big difference between JSX and HTML tags. So okay, let's see our function app. We can see it that we have a return function. So this function is creating this component. Right now, my only component on the screen. We're going to create more components today, don't worry. So we can see that our function is only hosts a return function that returns this JSX content that will become real HTML once React is ready to make changes on the screen. Remember the virtual DOM? So this is what React uses to keep track of the changes, and when it's ready to show it on the screen, it will become normal HTML tags. So okay, let's create an state right now, an state variable. So if I put something like const, don't worry about that, const total, set total, and let me explain what is this. This one is a 2 items array. This one will be our getter variable, and this will be a setter. This will be actually a setter. And we actually, to set the initial value, we cannot put, for example, if we want to say that the total is 10, we cannot put it like that. This will start throwing errors like crazy. No, to actually say the initial value, you use useState, and then 10. There you go. So we create our first variable that is directive in React. And how do we put it on the screen? Quite simple. I can create a new tag here. It looks like it's HTML, but it's JSX actually. So hello, and I will put the value here, total, inside the. So hello 10. Perfect. And if I want to put the value total here in another part of the project as well, I can just put it without any issue. Hello 10, hello 10. I'm gonna teach how to make events in more detail tomorrow, but for now, I just want to showcase the advantage of using reactive data is, for example, increase total. This is a basic example you always see. I know it's boring, but it's useful for some reason. Just give me 1 second, it's easy. It's not the mirror of a live class. Okay, just 1 second. Okay, let's continue. So we are at a button, nothing happened. You're probably gonna think you can use a button add event listener, but first we haven't added an ID at all, so we don't know how to reach it. In React, we toss everything that we learn in normal JavaScript and we do everything in a different way. So in this case, we're gonna say onClick equals and use this syntax. And here, arrow function again, that's the reason that, remember, everything in React is an arrow function. And in this one, we're gonna say that sec total. First, let's gonna just make a quick change, like if 555. This is gonna be easy. So inside the button, I just put the event listener, the new way to make an event listener. And I just say that the new total is 555. So if everything goes well and I press increase total, both the title and the paragraph has updated the value. In normal JavaScript, first I will need it to put an ID to the button. Like in normal JavaScript will be like an ID, step number 1. Step number 2 will be get a constant button equal document get element by ID, blah, blah, blah. Step number 2. Step number 3 will be add event listener. Remember the boot add event listener, blah, blah, blah. And then run a function. And in the function, inside the function, I will need it to put an ID to the heading one, an ID to the paragraph, and say title inner HTML equal 555 or total, and paragraph inner HTML total. So as you can see, with normal JavaScript, you will need to write a lot of code just to update these two. And if you actually need to add a third element that needs to be synchronized, you need to add one ID more. For example, if you want to use this paragraph, you will need to put an ID here, create a constant to get the document by ID here, and so on and so forth. So you will start to write a lot of repetitive code that React allows you to actually smooth the process quite easy without any issues. So yeah, let's make it way easy. Okay, I got a question. Why we're using set total when you use use states to set the initial value? Okay, that's a nice question. Let me go back. And thank you, please. These kind of questions are wonderful. Why I'm using set total, this one, instead of use state? The answer is quite simple. This is a way to initialize a React reactive data. We're using use states the first time because this is what tells React, hey, create a new block of memory in the computer memory to keep track of how is this value gonna be updated. But this is only, imagine this is a constructor. It's only used the first time. The second time that you want to modify total, you need to use the setter. I know that is confusing that you're using you have one method function, one method call here and another here, and you need to use the first one. Let me go back to this slide. I think this one will explain it a little bit better. The number 2 is a getter. The number 3 is the setter. If you want to modify this one, you use this one. And the first time you use the first time you use this one. If you do the contrary, let me see, for example, if I use set total here, it will make an error. And if I do the contrary, if I do a use state here, it will make an error as well. So yeah, this part, and this is the part that in React you need to practice a little bit. You need to make projects over and over again until this becomes second nature. Don't worry, I struggled a little bit, especially because I came from another framework called Vue. If you want to make a reactive variable, well, right now we're gonna write a little bit of Vue. You will hate React as soon as I do this, but this is only for an example. If you want to do this same example in Vue, first you don't use one curly brace, you use 2 curly braces. This is a difference in syntax between, forget about the errors. Let me just put this on full screen. In Vue, you use 2 curly braces instead of 1. And in another part of the code, there is the other curly brace. Okay, this one here. And in Vue, to create a reactive data, you just literally do constant total equal 10. And in any part of the project, you just put total equal 555, and that's it. Vue is beautiful. Vue is easy. I really wish to teach Vue instead of React, but the reason that we're teaching you React even is so weird, because there is no other way to describe React as weird, is because this is the framework that will actually get the highest chances of getting a job here in Sweden and in the rest of the planet. So for my personal projects, I use Vue, but for professional projects, because I know that we're gonna go work with a company, that the company already probably is working in React, I would React. But I know that it looks super confusing, but you need, the only way to get used to this one and don't make these mistakes, because by the way, the first time, as soon as we finish the class, and you try to make your exercise on your own, you're probably gonna make this mistake of using set total here, or the mistake of putting this one here. And it's normal because it takes time until you get comfortable with these weird syntaxes. But again, React is the dominant player in the front-end development, so unfortunately we need to get used to that. At least I don't need to teach Redux anymore, because we are moving to much better stuff like Context API, and I want to teach you about Recoil. So at least we don't need to take 3 days to teach about Redux. And 3 days is not lectures from 9 to 11 that becomes 9 to 12. We are talking about 3 days of lectures that start at 8 and finish about 4 o'clock, because Redux is the worst thing that somebody ever developed in their life. So yeah, Hermanos actually said use a state as a constructor. I don't know if he said it right before I said it or after I said it, but nice that we thought something similar. So yeah, this will be close, like to use the constructor. And this one is when you actually want to modify this one. So yep, that's it.
I have a question, if I may.
Yeah.
Because now we are using hooks and functional components, which are more modern. So what is the risk that the employer will want us during the interview, for example, write class components or being able to read class components?
Good question. If we open the React documentation, you can see that React was using, before moving to functional components, React was using JavaScript classes. And this can happen actually in projects where you actually find some parts of your code as class components and some part of the newer parts of the code as functional components. The syntax is quite similar. I am not used to use the class components. I use it just a little bit, so I probably forgot about right now how to do it. My recommendation is read a little bit about that and get used to read about that. But tell in an interview that you are comfortable reading class components and you are comfortable needing to modify React class components, but is your best professional opinion that newer components should be used functional components because they have the new libraries are built around the functional components. So for example, Recoil, that is a syntax for handling the global state that is quite close to this syntaxes, only works with functional components. Thus, in a couple of years, if you don't make the transition to functional components, you will miss the best libraries. Well, of course, Facebook, because they invented class component React at all, the entire React ecosystem, they will maintain class components during a long time. But you will start seeing new plugins or new components, and little by little, they will only start be releasing in the new format that is functional components instead of the class one. So my answer for that particular question is, first of all, you cannot lie. You need to practice on your own class components. I will send the link at the end of the lecture, so you can. Once you dominate how to do functional components, you can learn the old method called class components. So if in a job interview you get the question, you can say, even if I use functional components, I can read class components, and I'm comfortable editing class components as well. But I recommend that the newer components are built using functional components, because otherwise, if we get stuck with the old syntaxes, new plugins will start coming up, and in one particular point of time, they will start releasing code that works for the class components as well. So we need to be prepared for the future. That's literally what I will say in a interview. I don't say copy my style. Maybe you don't agree with my style, and I totally respect that. But if I get asked that question, I will answer exactly like that.
Thank you, Eduardo.
No, but this is something that I would like to hear a second opinion, because we can use this particular space as a forum for discussion. So I see a question.
I don't have an opinion. I'm not that experienced to have an opinion on that. But I think I agree with you, definitely. That's how I would answer along the line, something similar.
But don't worry. And Mega actually makes a question that is, even if not directly related, is kind of related. Why front-end technologies like jQuery become obsolete so quickly? The answer is simple, because there is a huge difference between the web and desktop applications, and I will explain the reason what is. You can actually figure it out on your own if you think about it quite hard. But imagine that you install Office for a person, Office, PowerPoint, Word, Excel, so on and so forth, for a person, and that person doesn't have access to the internet. Maybe you're in a really shitty company that doesn't give access to the internet to people because they want to control. They are dinosaurs, and they think that the internet will make people lazy, and they will spend all day on Facebook, so they don't give internet access at all to the employees. You know that a computer without internet access in this age is basically a joke. But you also know that if you install Office for a DVD, a pen drive, and so on and so forth, you know that program is battle tested for more than 20, maybe even 30 years. You know that employee can be productive and create any kinds of documents and print and make PowerPoint slides and share it with people using pen drive, USB drive, or whatever. So that program can work without issues for years. I'm not talking about 1, 2 years, maybe 10 years. You can even go back to Windows XP and use Office 2000, and you can make a thesis in that one without any issues in a Pentium 3 computer. You may think that I have not answered the question at all. But what I'm trying to say is that you can use a computer without internet access and use traditional desktop applications without any issues. You cannot open the web browser without internet access. So there is this totally different paradigm that desktop applications are designed to work forever, as long as, just as well as the day they were installed. Web pages are designed to work based on in the assumption that you have a constant internet connection. So if you cannot open the web browser because there is no internet, then you cannot access it. You cannot open your application at all. And that's something that you cannot guarantee with Office. You can. That's why you need to build your desktop application in a way that you know that it needs to work well from day one without patches and everything. I know security and hacking, that's a different topic, but we're talking about the ability to complete a task inside PowerPoint or a Word without internet access. In a web page, you don't have that problem because you can guarantee that you will always have internet, because if you cannot, you don't have internet, you cannot enter Gmail or enter YouTube at all. So if you can, you can guarantee the application, in this case, a web application, has 100% chances that it has internet connection, then you realize something, that you can launch updates to the program like Gmail or YouTube on the fly each time that you want to. And this also developers realize something. We cannot only update the web pages each time that we please. We don't have problem with users with different versions of the web page, because everybody will be literally on the same web page with the latest version. But they realize we can do exactly the same with the web libraries, because if YouTube, for example, let's say that on Monday, today, YouTube is using jQuery. Let's say it's using jQuery, and tomorrow jQuery becomes obsolete. On Wednesday, they can install React, and as soon as you enter www.youtube.com, in the first line of code, they will install the entire React library, and then you will see the new improved YouTube site now running on React. So this opened the Pandora box that not only you can update your personal developed application whatever day you want, but you can use any technology, no matter how new it is, because you will not have a problem that the user doesn't have the latest version installed of Java installed in the Java compiler runtime environment installed in the computer. For example, I think the Mac OS starts with has Java 8 by default, but because Oracle, the owners of Java, become kind of a dick, and they started to charge money to big companies to install Java, Apple said, you know what, fuck it. You can install Java in Mac, but new versions of OS X doesn't come with the latest Java version from this particular year. So you don't have the same wonderful ability of staying up to date with the development libraries. And once you allow JavaScript libraries to update each day, they start a word that each library, for example, jQuery launches a feature, then Angular launches a better version of the same feature, then the next day from nowhere, Facebook launch a new feature, a new library called React that is the better version of the both, and then from China, the open source movement launches Vue, and so on and so forth. So that's why the web development world becomes obsolete so fast, because we have this wonderful ability to be always up to date. It's a double-edged sword, yes. It means that everything that you learned 3 years ago becomes obsolete quite fast, yes. If you don't like, and this is a personal opinion, and you can see there is a lot of desktop developers that don't like the web development world at all. If you don't like to be a self-taught person that likes to learn new stuff all the time, I will totally understand if you don't like web development at all. My personality is that I always love to be on the bleeding edge. So for me, when I try to develop for Android, and I know that I need to target even devices from Android 5, I become miserable. But when I develop for iOS, and I know that Apple always forces us to develop for the latest 2 versions, and they're totally okay if you drop compatibility with version 3 from 3 versions ago, it's easier to develop for. And in the web, you don't think about versions, because as I told you, the concept of the latest version doesn't exist. Everybody is on the latest version. So that's why this world of new features roll up all the time. I hope that this answers your question. Mega?
Yeah, yes, Eduardo. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. So let's continue. Where were we? To be honest, I totally lose the train of thought. Oh, okay, we were making the React hooks. So now we have this one. Perfect. So we created this one. Let me see if I didn't write any pseudo view code break the app. No. we still have this one, and you can see how fast it updates. It doesn't matter if you only have 2 items or 100, React will take care of making it super, super fast. So anyways, let's continue. Now let's create another component. This is a component. So even in our root, let me open Whimsical so we can see. Just 1 second. I want to show you a small diagram so we can be on the same page. Yeah, this is a web development course. Yeah, this is all the what we planned for the. This is the to-do list. Anyways, and this is the final project. No, you will not see that one. That's the answers. So you didn't see that. In any case, we are on app. Hey, I don't see my cursor. We are on app.gsx, and we want to add a new component, a child component called the card. We are going to start building the YouTube site. Of course, today we'll barely go do anything, but we're going to have the basics. So we're going to have this structure. We are going to create the card app and another one, and we're going to prepare for the future, and we're also going to create the header component as well. CSX. So we're going to create these 2 components. How do we do that in React? Let's do it. First, I have my app, because this is the, as you can see, app is the root. It's okay to have that one outside, but I like to have my other components inside a component folder. So I will create a folder called components. And inside the components, I will create the card GSX. First, let's complete the card before we actually build another one. So first, we're going to create this component. Once we create it, we are going to import it from here so we can see it on the screen. And how do we do it? First step, we import React from React. This is the first step. We import React so the compiler knows that this file needs to be rendered as from React to normal HTML and normal JavaScript. Then we create a functional component. Function, card, and we create a function. We need a render function. We need a return because we need to show something on the screen. For now, we don't have anything. I will create a quick article tag. Perfect. And I will create a small title H2 because I don't put H1 because probably the H1 should be on the home page itself. I will say video, some video. Perfect. And some dummy text. Lauren. Perfect. So this is my small card. Perfect. Nothing fancy. But this will not work because we need to export the component. Let me show you why. Export default card. Oh, sorry, export default card. There you go. Why do we need to put this line of code? Quite simple. Remember that we need to tell the compiler that this function is the element that we need to render inside, convert back from React to normal HTML. And remember that you can have multiple functions per file. So I can have, for example, I can even do the header here as well. As you probably think, or is a really bad idea to actually have multiple functions inside the same file. I really, for organization purposes, I really like that one file per function. So I know that this component only has this one. And because I'm lazy and I don't like to write even more lines of code, I actually can simplify this one and put export default function card. This will not work if you actually have 2 functions inside. If I have the function header here as well, this will create a problem. But because we actually, remember, I'm telling you, it's not a forced rule. Nobody's forcing you to do that. But if I see, again, as a recruiter, and I'm being in the role as a recruiter as well, if I see somebody being so disorganized, and I see card, and then see a function card, and then I see another function here, ooh, this candidate is trouble. I just skip it. Unless I only have like 1 or 2 candidates to interview, okay, then I will probably skip that one. But if I have like 100 candidates to interview, I can waive like 20 candidates just by skipping this kind of mistakes. So for now, we are gonna build one component, one function per file. So we have what? So we have, let me see it that way, one file, one component, one function. So the three are one single entity: the file, the component, and the function itself. And that's why we use a single line export default function. So okay, we have this component. How do we import it here back in the app? So how do we make this one? Let me put the emoji of the monitor. Let me see. Okay. Monitor. How do we put this particular car? Let's say that this car is yellow. How do we put this car on the screen? We need to put it here inside the app render. And how do we do it? Let's do it. First step. Oh, sorry. First step, I need to import the card. Import card from dot notation components / card. And you can see that because we use a JSX extension, Visual Studio Code can show me this beautiful atom icon. And there you go. We know that this is a component. Now we have this one. Now to put it on the screen, we only need to make a new, and this is, and now you will see why this is not HTML. We're gonna put this element on the screen. How do we do it? It's quite simple. We can put it outside the header. We can put a minus equal, let's car. There you go. Hey, it's a mistake. Let me see what is happening. No, it's here. This is the component, the video. This is the component that we just put it. And to see that it's not outside of the screen, we're actually gonna put it right in the middle. We can put it right here between this one. And there you go. This is my card component. So as you can see it, you just create an HTML tag that doesn't exist at all. Card is not an HTML tag. Remember, we are not writing HTML anymore. So we stopped writing normal HTML and normal JavaScript last week. And now you will understand why Eduardo actually spent more days in CSS. The reason is simple. From last week, the only concepts that will not go in waste will be all the CSS skills. All that you learn about CSS will still be 100% utilized in React. The semantic tags that you learn actually can be reutilized, but remember, we are not writing HTML anymore. We are writing JSX. It looks 90% similar to HTML, but you just saw one difference. We actually create a new tag that doesn't exist. We are writing JavaScript code inside tags. That's crazy. So now you can see the difference between normal HTML and React. And JSX, sorry. So we just imported a component. So let me, if I go back, you can see the step breakdown as well here. We create a React component. We saw this, the breakdown is the same project that I just did. So you can actually go back to the slides and check it out. And the next step will be parsing props. What is parsing props? It's sending information from top to bottom. So for example, we have this number 10 and this number 10 inside my app JSX. So for example, if I put my data here, if I use another block just to keep track of my data, here I have a total equal 10. I'm not using React syntaxes because React syntaxes is so long that it will take like 4 lines to fill it. But for example, if I put in card, if I put, for example, total here, total is undefined. And you will say, Eduardo, it's not undefined, it's here. It's not that I'm doing something crazy. we are inside the return function, so the car actually is supposed to be in the scope. It's inside, but no. React components are self-contained entities. So if I create a total here, for example, const, if I literally copy and paste the code, if I literally copy the code and put 5, and I put the library, remember, you need to use the use state. There you go. Now we have two variables total, but we don't want to achieve this effect. We actually want to share this number. So how do we tell React, hey, I want to pass this number to this particular car element. Let me put a little bit of space here on purpose so we can see this is my imported React component. Oh yeah, and even the comments are different in React. Welcome to React, everything is different. So this is my car component. So how do I pass this total here? So we don't need to use this one and have synchronization issues. So simple, let's do it. First, from the car point of view here in the component, I will write a property called prop. And in prop, I put curly braces and I put inside my total variable. There you go. It looks like it's fixed, but right now I still see this one. I will delete this one so it doesn't become confusing. I will delete this one. And again, total is not defined because there is no reference to the total one. So I will put here props because this is and this is going to be similar to the confusion that we saw in use state. You're probably going to think that the variable is total and you should probably put total here. But no, the one that we are passing is this one, prop. So this is the name that you put here, prop. And inside this one, to access the prop, the total variable that prop has, you put prop dot total. And there you go. We have it. We still cannot see the number. Let me refresh the page and see what is happening. Total. Just give me 1 second. Total is state. Let me see. Total any prop. Did I use singular prop? Total prop total. This is 1. This is prop. Do I need to use this constructing? That one? Yes. Let me see. No, it's not working. Yeah. Let me just give me 1 second to see what is not working. Let me see the. And no worries, as you can see, this is only, you need to take a little bit time until you get used to the syntaxes. Just give me 1 second to see what is not working. And if somebody actually has the answer, just tell me. Let me see in the chat. So, well, meanwhile, until I get the answer, yeah, so app.esx is usually not in the components folder, but in the root. The answer is yes, because as I showed you in this diagram, this is my entry point. My entry point is actually in the HTML, but after that one, it's important this one. So for convention, I actually use JSX on the folder. Another question, if there is a limit of number of components, no, this is the magic of React. As long as your computer has memory, you can put as many components as you want. So, and it actually, and this is the benefit of React. If you have 1,000 components, React will work quite fast with 100, 100, or 10,000 components. Meanwhile, JavaScript with 100 components, it can be fast, but with 10,000, it will become quite slow because the DOM manipulation is a super bad technology, bad way to handle multiple pieces of data. But anyways, let's keep trying to make this one work. To be honest, I don't know where it's not working. Let me open just another project. It's probably some syntax issue, but let me see if I can fix it by just opening the console. Hello, total. Car, video. So let me see if the console is throwing me some clue. Okay, first of all, it's telling me that delete this one. So I will delete this one. Okay, this one is not working, but let me see if I can do a console log from here. Console log prop. And you can see the value is 10. Okay, if I do just do prop. Yay, crash. So yeah, it was total. Just give me 1 second. Prop is a key value dot prop. Just give me 1 second. Open a project. Documents, design, depth. Active. This is a finished one. And we go from app, components, modules, car. I use props, plural, okay. And in templates, this is the home screen. Just give me 1 second, home page. In case this prop item is, I pass it as a key item. Yeah, okay, item.id, prop is an object. Okay, it's an object. Oh, okay, okay, I think I got it. Just give me 1 second. Let me open the other one. So, okay, we are in the, no, this is the full project. Let me open the other one. The one we're building together. Just 1 second. To-do list is in the documents, it's in YouTube Live. So I need to restart the server. Perfect, because we close the project. So let me do an npm start right quickly. Meanwhile, I will answer more questions. Okay, I don't think that we use this syntaxes in React, but I will try that one.
I think I just figured it out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so go back to the app where we were passing it in. So we're calling it prop. We can call that whatever we want to call it. So we can call
yeah,
it
you can call it total. Yeah.
So if we go to card now, it has to be props. So
yes, you're right. Okay, that was a problem. It's props, and inside props is props dot total. Yes, you're totally right, Armando. And
dot prop, you called it prop, so it's going to be props dot prop. That's what I was referring to.
Yeah.
So the needs to be prop because we called it prop in the app.
Yeah, you're right. That was a mistake. So for example, in this one, if I call total and I will pass total, props is a generic term and props is an object, and inside the object, you will get the properties that we are here. So yeah, let me just confirm this one. I will explain that one for the rest. Don't worry. I want to open this one a new port. Yes. Just give me 1 second. Perfect. So we can see it. And thank you. Yes, that was the issue. So I will explain it right now. And I will use the word prop so you can so everybody can understand what's happening. Okay. No, I will use even a different name. Equivalent. just to have a different name. So okay, inside cards, we actually use the word props because this is what we are trying to achieve. We pass an argument called props, and if I do console log inside props, you will see that it's an object, in this case, equivalent with the value 10. And to access the value, you go props, dot notation, and go total. Okay. And the reason that I was a little bit confused is because I used to another syntax called destructuring. And now that we're mentioning it right now, we can actually go and explain a little bit better. If we think that this component will be our card for the YouTube player, we need the video title and the YouTube channel. So let's build something quickly for that. So in this one, instead of saying video, we're gonna say so for example, props.title, and in this one we'll say props.description. Perfect. Let's do that here. Let's pass two props here. So I will pass, for example, in this one, I will pass a title. No worries. And we are going to pass a title, my title that doesn't exist right now. Don't worry, I will create it right now. And then description will be my description. Of course, it's not working right now because we don't have this variable defined. So I will create description. Set description equal use state. And I will say Alicia Keys. Oh no, this is title, sorry, title. Set title. And this one is title, set title, and it will be description. Set description. Perfect. And this one will be use state. And I will say hello world, just to have something on the screen. Perfect. Now I will pass this one. My title will be this one, title. Yeah. I hear somebody, but the audio is super cut. So can you go again, or otherwise go in the chat? I don't see. Somebody was trying to speak. Please use the chat in case the microphone is not working. But anyways, let's continue my description. So I have these problems, and now I'm gonna fix it. Yeah. No, somebody's trying to speak, but you need to use the chat because I really cannot understand you.
Well, I think it's just your echo.
Yes, it was an echo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, in any case, okay. Let's continue. And now you can see that I have my card component is here and have the title. This is the one that we are passing as props, plural. This is another variable that we are passing as props based on these ones. And inside the card, we have the props in generic, and then we can access them by props.title and props description. And you can actually do something even more advanced called the structuring. So for example, you can create, for example, a title, description, and instead of using props to the title, it will break again, no worries. And you can actually access this like these ones. Let me. Oh no, okay, no, I needed to put it outside. It's here, props, and I will say const. I think it's this one, const title, comma description equal props. And now I can access directly title. It's a cleaner way to actually write the React code. And you can see that you can use the normal syntaxes of dot notation from props, or you can take the time to actually write one line of code for the destructuring that allows you to have all the properties right in here. What is the advantage of this one? Is that you don't need to put props dot, so it allows you to write a shorter code. So that will be an advantage of using the, and this is the syntaxes I used to do. That's the reason that I was forgetting how to write the other one. And this is a, yeah.
Will the spread operator work if we try to deconstruct it? Can we still like access everything in the object if we use the spread operator instead of writing every prop name?
I think so, yes. I haven't tried it, but in theory, the three dots should probably work as well, yes.
But then we wouldn't be able to see the names of the props, so maybe
exactly, that's the problem. This actually gives you your fellow developers a little bit. Yeah, there is one point on how much optimization you want to do. Yes, you can be super clever and write super short, but at one point you will even forget what props do you need, and then you will need to go back to card just to see the title and the description. The intention is that the card can be as self-contained as possible, and you can understand, okay, Title and description, these are my props. So yeah, even I haven't tried it, but even if you can use a spread operator, I would actually recommend to write the normal method just to the normal simple destructuring, so you can see the names of your variables or your props actually.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. We are about to finish for today. Yeah, we are going to 3 hours. I just want to teach you something real quick. How do we actually add CSS? You can see here we are importing a CSS file here without issues. You can see app.js, and if I change, for example, this background color, your test line, this one is in the left, and the rest I think is why is not aligns in the center? Because you are using flex to align the content. There you go. Looks horrible, but this is what I wanted. To change the design a little bit. And the background color is this one. I will put it in gray. There you go. Gray, perfect. So yeah, you can see that you can change the design. And we can create a CSS file just for components. So for example, I like to create a CSS folder for the components. No, for now, I'm gonna teach more organization methods tomorrow. For now, I will create just the card code here. So for example, .card, and I will call it card, and I would say background color red. Yeah, because organizing files in React is gonna take a little bit more time. So yeah, I prefer to do that one tomorrow. And okay, how do we add the class? How do we append the class? If I put class equal card, it works. Yay, it's working. But if you go to the console, you see that the console is full of. Okay, the first mistake is that something is used and not set title is used but never applied. So we're gonna ignore this one. It's only do that because we're not using the setters. React is complaining. Okay, that's the first one. And that set description as well is never used. Okay. But let me see the error that I want to show you. Set title, card description, assign. Let me see. Okay, you can see this error that is important. Warning, invalid DOM property class. Do you mean class name? Remember, we're not working on HTML. So you cannot use the word class because class belongs to HTML. So it will create a conflict when you render back your elements. Right now, it's working because it's a small project and React knows how to handle it. But in a bigger project, it will start making mistakes. So in GSX, you use class name and get used to that one. Let me reload the page. And we don't see that error anymore. And this one is description is used. And this warning is for this one. And if I reload the page, now you can see that our React component is not making any mistakes. Let me go back to just this one so you can see it one more time. It throws an error. This is important. This is critical. In a bigger project, this can actually start making conflicts, especially if for some reason not 100% of your web page is in React. Maybe the React is only one container. That can make a lot of conflicts. But usually nowadays, if you're going to make a project in React, everything in the front end is in React. But just to be sure, class name. And this is another thing that recruiters notice. You think that this is stupid, and I know that some of you actually, as soon as you see something working, you don't even take the time to actually make the right way because it's working. And I can change the color to yellow. I can go this one to yellow. So you will not even bother to fix it. But any recruiter that is worth his damn will open the console on your project. And if you start seeing a lot of warnings and errors, it's gonna probably skip on you. So to fix that one, it's easy. Get used to use class name. Reload the page, and there you go. That's it. I will push this one. Let's hope that Bitbucket is not broken anymore. I organize the project, and also create hooks, components, and before we leave, we actually add the header component as well. Passing props. So that will be the very last thing that we're gonna do today. So again, in your components folder, we are gonna create a new one called header GSX. Again, import React. You see, once you get used to the React world, it's quite fast to write this code. So it just takes patience. Export default function header and return. I will refactor a little bit of this project because there is a header here. So no, I will keep the two headers just to make it faster. Return header. We can just say h1. Super dirty. I just want to teach you how to have two components at the same time. There is no issue at all. Remember, inside here, you can import header. Don't worry about the errors. Those slash components slash header. There you go. And to put the header, I will put it right upside this one. And you can see this is the header, the HTML tag, lowercase, and uppercase is the name of my React component. So React components are on uppercase, HTML tags are on lowercase. And this is something that you really need to differentiate because there is a world of difference between button and probably the buttons that you will build on React, like these ones. So get used to the difference. Lowercase, HTML tags. Uppercase, GSX, React components, sorry. So something to consider by. And because we are here, just let me add a little bit of order. So this will be React core because this comes from the React libraries, React core. This is media because this is from my media elements, the image and the style. And these are my own components. So to make the code a little bit more organized. This is not obligatory. And I don't think that any recruiter will actually either give you or reduce points if you don't do this. But at least they will be happy to see if you actually take care to organize your components a little bit. If you're going to go one level deep, you can say state. Just to know that these one are the state variables. So yeah, that will be it for today. Tomorrow we're going to cover the other topics that we were left behind. And then we're going to start doing the real YouTube site live coding session so you can have more experience in how to do that. But if you are a person that is proactive and actually wants to see if you actually manage to do the project as much on your own as possible, you can read the tutorial that is in the Git repository, and I will be around. So for example, if you have a specific question, I will try to answer. Remember, if I don't answer you, it's not because I don't care, it's because you're probably not the only one. And I also have mentor meetings today as well. So yeah, today is gonna be quite packed. But for the first day on React, I think that we see a little bit of theory of what is so important. Okay, see you tomorrow to continue with advanced topics and start the coding session, the live coding
Sorry,
session.
Eduardo.
Yeah.
Can I ask one question, please?
Yeah, go ahead, Lee.
So if we compare the functional component versus the class component, do you have access to component did mount and constructor and stuff like that? Those other methods.
Yeah, you're talking about again. This is another person that actually have experience with the old syntaxes of React. In the old syntaxes of React, there is something called did mount, did update when you started to load the React code into the system. But with the new syntaxes, you're going to use something called use effect that is always updating the state, and you can actually tell them do it just. Don't update every single second, just update when this particular piece of data is changing. And that's the one that we're gonna use. So use effect will replace your did mount and your did update in the class components in React in the old way.
Eduardo, what is the goal for today? We have individual tasks.
Yeah,
to
let's
finish.
share the screen. Yes, you're right. You're right. You are totally right. So let's see the slides one more time. So okay, let's see this one. Let me put it on preparation. Try to recreate the product page of the Cupcake website. I don't say that you will be able to manage to do it. There is some concepts that are missing that are in the tutorial. If you read the tutorial, you will have more information, and then you will be able to complete the Cupcake website. Another preparation that is important is watch the React Router video on the recommended content. It's a new video, but I added on the weekend. And now, using the same themes that you have last week, you can start discussing the following questions. How components can make your life easier? What parts of the web page benefit the most for reusable components? And how you can integrate the other pages of the Cupcake website? Just you don't need to do it. Just talk about it. So yeah, it's just a discussion about what you learned today and about well, the third one you will learn a little bit more if you watch the second topic. So yeah, that will be it for the assignment for today. Any more questions? And can I upload the video soon? I always, as soon as I finish, I start the upload process. The reason that it takes a little bit of time is because YouTube needs to upload thousands of videos per day, and we are only one of the many people using this service, and that's why it takes time. So yeah, I really wish you to send it immediately, but it's not because I don't want to do it, it's because it takes time. So as soon as I finish this, I will start the process, but it will take maybe 1 hour to be ready. So, yep. Any more questions before we close for today? No more questions? If not, then see you tomorrow, guys.
Right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. See you in a bit.
Bye.